Well, we appreciate you taking the time. Let's jump right into it. You guys have been working hot and heavy up there in your office, as always, doing the work of the people up there, specifically on the issue of immigration. You have been a leader on that issue for a long time and really stepped it up even another notch here in the wake of the revelations that Syrian refugees were going to be placed in Alabama and other parts around the country. I'd love for you to walk through this issue a little bit with our listeners, specifically with regard to the omnibus spending bill that is coming down the pipe right now, which you have said would literally fund all of Obama's immigration agenda, including the Syrian refugees. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, we're in a difficult spot. Under the law, the president can admit as many refugees as he desires. He can triple the number. We already admit 70,000. This year he's raised that number to 85,000, and Secretary Kerry indicated they could go to 100 next year, and of course he put no cap on it. He could go even higher than that. So this is a very large increase. There are two real problems. First, Congress needs to assert its authority and not give the president unilateral power to decide how many refugees are admitted. It costs money first to set them up in the country. We fly them here. We provide housing. We give money to non-government entities and I guess government entities to find housing for them and try to help them get started in this new world, get language education for them. And then that ends, and they claim that's the only expense. But we know, for example, that of the refugees here from the Middle East, 93% are on food stamps. Mm-hmm. They're on housing allowances that continue, on Medicaid, low-income health care free, and those kind of things they also get. And as a refugee, you get all the rights and benefits, including Social Security and Medicare, that citizens get. So this is a big deal, and nobody counts the cost of these expenses that these individuals will add up when they over a lifetime. The Heritage Foundation did a study that said for every 10,000 over a lifetime, these immigrants would add $6.5 billion to cost. And if you do 100,000 a year, that's 65,000.
My gosh.
Of course, we've been doing this for years and plan to continue. So we're talking 65 billion. And if you do 100,000, that's 65 that group and every year thereafter. So the numbers add up, and we don't even count that. Nobody even counts it. So Congress should set up a mechanism to add up the cost, and it should then decide how many we can admit.
Yeah,
that is not in the bill. Therefore, the president will continue to be able to bring in these individuals in even larger numbers than they've said so far. And I don't think that's good. Look, there's a humanitarian crisis, Cliff, in parts of the Middle East, and we want to help deal with it. I think we have information that says you can support 12 refugees or would-be refugees in the Middle East for the cost of one in the United States. We need to help establish safe zones in Syria, and we need to try to help keep as many as possible there. And there's just no alternative to that. But we cannot have a policy that basically says that anybody that is in an unstable country gets to come to the United States as a refugee. That just makes no sense at all. And you got Libya, you got Syria, the big one right now, Afghanistan, Iraq, Yemen, places all over the Middle East that have destabilized countries, and we've got to do the right thing for the American people as well as try to help those in need.
Talking to Senator Jeff Sessions, he's up in Washington today. Senator, you've detailed a lot about the cost involved in this. I mean, the strain on our schools, the strain on Medicaid, which is the biggest driver of our budget issues here on the state level. I mean, the problems with this are just so numerous, you can't even count them all from a financial perspective. But we've also got a lot of folks, myself included, who are have security concerns. I went to Jordan earlier this year and spent some time among Syrian refugees there. And a lot of these folks, as you said, this is a humanitarian crisis, but these people come across the border from Syria. It's not like they've got a bunch of paperwork. It's not like we've got any kind of system in place that we could vet these people in any real way that I can see. Talk to us a little bit about that. I mean, we have even Republicans now saying that, well, the refugees are the most scrutinized people coming into the country, and there's no reason to worry about these folks. And having seen this firsthand, I just don't know how that could be the case.
Well, it's just not the case. I was in a refugee camp in Turkey not too long ago, and there were a lot of women and children, and someone asked about where the men were, and they say, well, a lot of them have gone back to fight. Mm-hmm. They get their family out of the country, and then they go back to fight. Well, whose side? You know?
Yeah.
Whose side are they on? We have very, very few that were good guys fighting in Syria, so no telling who these folks are. And so the FBI director, who says they really can't do background checks, the administration claims that they're doing biometric checks, which in the United States means you give your fingerprint and they run your records to see if you've got any convictions anywhere. But they don't have any such computer system in Syria, so you can't check that. We know there are false documents throughout the area. We know that people are coming into Europe as refugees. We know that in 2015 alone, we've had 12 people who've entered as refugees who've been indicted or convicted of terrorist activities in the United States in 1 year. So this and they had to admit, and I pressed the guy hard, and basically all they can do is interview the people. Mm-hmm. And if you say, well, I lived at this street and I worked at this job, nobody's going into Syria to see if they worked at that job or lived on that street. Yeah. It's not even thought about. And they admitted that. So there's no way we can do a real background check.
Now, over at Yellowhammer, and I know at other media outlets around the country, we occasionally get these talking points sent to us. It'll be Republican leadership will have decided there's some issue that they want to tackle. A couple examples come to mind would be like the Keystone XL pipeline, or let's repeal the medical device tax. They send out these talking points, and they're really taking on this issue in a big way. It's clear in those situations that that leadership is engaged on the issue. I'm curious to hear from you. Why is it that I never get those kind of talking points on the issue of immigration?
Wow, that's a good question. I mean, really. The American people care about this deeply. It powered Republican victories in the last election, and a lot of people are getting uneasy that they elected us and nothing much is happening. Mm-hmm. And so I do think we need to hear Republican leaders say such things as, you can't come to the country illegally. Mm-hmm. And we're not going to admit more people than we've got jobs for. And we're not going to admit more people to pull down wages of people who have jobs in this country, which is what is happening. And I hear, I'll just say, I'm concerned that they may add something on this omnibus giant bill that will increase substantially the number of lower skilled workers that come to America. These aren't ag workers in the farms. These are can be truck drivers, construction workers, and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Work in hotels. These are not jobs Americans won't do. We can't acknowledge. So what do Americans do? They go on welfare, and the jobs get taken by people from abroad who will work for less. We need to have wages go up, not down, which is what they've been doing, particularly for lower income people. And middle class and lower skilled workers are hurting the most in this economy. Everybody knows that. And a big part of that is immigration. So, yeah, I'd like to see more clarity from our leaders on that.
talking to Senator Jeff Sessions. Senator, on the issue of immigration and others I could point to as well, your colleague from here in Alabama, Senator Shelby, has been a close partner of yours on those. I'd love to talk a little bit about his reelection. He is up for reelection this coming year in the primary, and on March 1st, he has several opponents against him. Will you be supporting Senator Shelby in his reelection race this year?
Yes, I will. Richard and I we've gone closer as the years have gone by. He has been a rock-solid partner to me in immigration and other budget battles that we've fought. And I noticed, just recently, they voted to bust the budget caps, the limit on spending for non-defense discretionary programs, which I deeply felt we should have adhered to the budget caps that President Obama himself agreed to, and Senator Shelby voted with us on that, and even though they passed it anyway. But so we've been good partners, and of course he's a senior member of the Appropriations Committee, chairs the Banking Committee, but the Appropriations Committee is really only one senator from a state can be on it, and he has many times been able to help us protect the interest of Alabama. That's not unimportant, I got to tell you.
Yeah. What are some of the ways that you and Senator Shelby have worked together? How's that dynamic work to the benefit of the state up there?
Well, for example, we got a big defense industry in Alabama, and the bills generally first come before the Armed Services Committee, of which I'm a member, and I chair one of the subcommittees, and we try to provide for the national defense, and we're also aware of the bases we have in Alabama, and try to make sure that they're not getting unfairly damaged. And then it goes, but for the money to be actually spent, it has to be appropriated from Senator Shelby's committee. And he's a member of the subcommittee on appropriations for defense and the full committee. Could chair the committee in a few, the years to come, which would be really special. But and he's been able to have a double opportunity, and sometimes been able to protect interest for Alabama in a number of different areas.